Hello. I'm in Italy, and I'm having some thoughts about the importance of travel as it pertains to energy. So, I believe that stagnation is the bane of existence, whether or not that's a stagnant body, a stagnant mind, or a stagnant energy field. Oh my gosh, there's a lizard. There's a lizard over there. I'm gonna show the lizard. Hi, buddy. Oh, he's fast. Never mind. So, I'm thinking about how if we don't connect with other people, then you'll never be moved to see the things that you might be deficient in, I guess is one way of putting it. Or you will never become aware of things that you want to grow and change because you'll never be challenged by other people's personalities. And I'm seeing a puzzle or, cogs and gears. Like we move, we're contingent upon one another. Like if you're on a team and you're working towards a common goal, you oftentimes have to make concessions to accommodate other people's viewpoints and trust that they're going to offer something that you don't see in order to be able to find a way forward that benefits all parties. Because a lot of the times we see things and think that we are right because our experiences and our knowledge fits together in a very precise way, but that only leads to one or multiple paths forward, and then other viewpoints are going to expand the potential for ways to proceed in any given situation. So that's about like personal growth and development when it comes to our emotions and stuff. But then with the body, we used to, in ancient times, hunt and gather, and there was a need to be more active on a daily basis. And we don't need to do that anymore. Everything is so accessible, problematically so, to the point where people, I feel, are losing the desire to even prepare our own food. I see, of course, there's fast food, which is very accessible, and unfortunately, it's the least nutritionally, it's the most nutritionally vacant food. It's empty calorie food, but it's the most affordable and the most available for the most people. But even like meal kits, I see a lot of those where you can order all of your prepared or semi-prepared meals, so they come portioned out with different ingredients. I think that in terms of, gender roles in biology, I'm not saying that a woman needs to be a wife and be a cook, and that a man needs to work and provide, and everybody can identify how they want. But there is something to what women and men were designed to do in their biology. And in that, I mean, I believe women are oracles, and they're more intuitive as they are in sync with the moon, whereas men have a hormonal schedule that is more sun up, sun down with the sun. They rise and fall, and women are on a monthly cyclical lunar calendar, and those things contribute to how we show up for the other people in our lives. And a lot of the way we live today doesn't honor those types of cycles. I think there's issues with how feminism is regarded today, and that a lot of people, women and men, think that it's about women having the same opportunities and performing the way that men do, and that's just unrealistic. I think they should be revered for the things that they are naturally strong at, which is providing insights and wisdom and information, because I see feminine energy as being connected, very connected to metaphysical stuff. Not to say that male energy cannot be, because of course it can be. But a woman is not designed to do the things that a man is designed to do, and that's for a reason, because we are meant to live in collaborative states. Now I'm like very aware of the fact that a lizard could just crawl by me at any point, which is exciting, but something to be mindful of. Okay, so traveling across the world, there are just simply things that you can't experience if you never leave your house or your town or your city or your country. And there are certain things, I think about the Akash, right? Akashic integration. Certain things that will be triggered within you if you go to other places in the world. And there are certain places that I'm very pulled and moved and inspired to go to, and some places that I just have no interest in visiting ever. And I think that there's something to that. And if we have an inclination to go to certain places, then there's a reason for that. And being in Italy, I've been to Italy before, and the last time that I was here, it was like these little trapdoors kept collapsing in my mind and in my psyche, and I kept seeing more and more, having just almost past life memories or recollections of the feelings that come from living a different lifestyle. And the Italians and a lot of Europeans in general live slowly but deliberately, and they apply that to their fashion, their food. They eat high quality, nutritionally rich food, but smaller portions, and they wear fine clothes and fine shoes, but they don't buy in excess. And you see Italian women in these, stiletto boots or very high heels, and they're just walking without breaking step on cobblestones, without breaking an ankle or turning an ankle. And it's because those shoes, I was talking to somebody yesterday, she has a pair of Italian boots, and she said you put them on and it's not like seams all over the boot, it's like one piece. It's a very fine product. That's why they're so expensive. But the women want them because they look good and they're well supported to be able to walk over the cobblestones in their high heels. But there's like this deep familiarity with this land, with this place for me. And I came here, I was sitting in my room, just feeling like I belonged in this room, never having been here before. This is a villa that was built for a nobleman. It's an estate, really. It's a beautiful place. And I feel as if my energy and my auric field, when I come to a place like this, it just gets so expansive, because the types of things that I would feel not threatened by, but the things as a deep empath that I'm aware of and that I respond to in my day-to-day life in America, they cause me to want to constrict my field or protect myself. So, like going to the grocery store, there's a lot of people in low vibrational, negative mind states who are not doing well in life, and that's a palpable, transferable type of sensation, like that I can, and I know that many other people can, even if they don't necessarily put it into words, pick up on when out in public. And it necessitates, it creates a need to, clear the field and protect the energy on a somewhat regular basis, like multiple times a day. Like I've mentioned this before, but I go into people's homes for a living, and I always have to clear my energy when I leave someone's house, especially because the house is an extension of the body, or that's the belief in Eastern philosophy when it comes to the home and feng shui. And I find that to be so. I think that, they say if you clean your room, tidy mind. And some may be like, well, of course, yeah, you'll be able to function a little bit better if you're not surrounded by mess. But it's also a little bit more nuanced than that, where you can have a clean home, but if it's not arranged in a way that's conducive to the way you move through it, functionally and practically and physically, but also how you want to feel and live within your home, safety and security is a big one. That's why we crave a sense of home, metaphorically and literally, is to belong somewhere and have a safety, a home base of some kind. I just saw a baby hummingbird. Oh, I have to get bug spray. I've gotten a ton of bites. I have welts all over my legs. Oh, I'm just, I see our connections in life, our energetic connections, everybody, and I've had this visual for years and years. I forget when I first conceived of it. I think maybe in the year 2010. But I saw myself and I saw a map as a normal map, and me being like a point on the map, and then little golden threads coming out from that point that I represent, interacting with every person or place that I've ever had a connection with. Some of them were very thin, frail threads that don't have much fortification or body energetically, because those to me represented just quick moments in passing. Maybe it was just one time that I met a person, but it was still an impactful, memorable interaction, and therefore there's still a connection of thread. There's still a connection between myself and that person, whether or not I ever see them again. And then the connections that are bolder cords that are woven with multiple sinews, not just one frail cable. Those would be the relationships that I tend to and maintain, or perhaps a place that I go to on a regular basis. So I see myself as strengthening the thread between my life on a day-to-day basis, my origin, my home base in America, and then being able to come back to Italy after not being here for 6 years, returning here again, traveling that golden thread of connection between myself and how I orbit the spaces that I regularly do. And I think like when you transverse these threads, and it doesn't have to be physical moving, so if there's threads, the ones that, the stronger, more prominent relationships in your life, those will also be stronger, thicker cables or golden lines coming out from that point that you inhabit. And it doesn't mean that you go to see those people every time you interact with them, but it means any energy you put towards somebody or something and receive from somebody else. You could have a long distance relationship with a very important person in your life who you are constantly giving and receiving energy to and from. And so when you transverse those cables, right, the more connected, the more interrelated with the energies around you you become. I see like, the golden threads almost filling in. You can create blankets or planes of energy that you're able to transverse, right? If you have friends all over the globe, then not only maybe you can go visit them and be in different places, but also you have the ability to extend like your energy, your mindfulness, your consciousness to more places and benefit from more people influencing you in your life. I think too about how we are triggered on a daily basis. Basically everything that happens around us is a trigger, and trigger has a negative connotation. So I'll also use the word glimmer, which is kind of its antithesis. Glimmer would be anything that happens along your path that it triggers you, but in a affirming way that says you're on the right path, like a synchronicity. In fact, seeing the baby hummingbird would be one of those for me, just because I was listening to a recording the other day, and yesterday somebody was talking about hummingbirds being a good omen, so the timeliness, given the fact that I do not see hummingbirds every day, I see that as a glimmer, because it lines up with the things, right? It shows me that my energy is being responded to, or the world is yielding me more layers of the cosmic quilt that I'm navigating. 1414. Shortly before I came here, I've been here for 2 days now. I had a dream or a vision of basically a person or a soul, or I'll use my mind and my experiences as an example, but it was like a dodecahedron, a prism, a shape, 12-sided, like a glowing prism, multifaceted, and imagining it made out of this light material that I've referred to before, because in the astral realm or in other dimensions, I've seen it as like a silica. I don't even know what that means, to be honest. I keep saying that word, like such a fine material, almost a wafer, so that you could like crunch into it, but it's made of light. The cells, every little piece of it is like an iridescent molecule, and they're very thin, very fine, very reflective, very iridescent. So that's the material that this thing is made out of. And it's like so fragile that I could crumple it, but it's also very like, you know, strong. Makes me think of how spiderweb material is. They say like per capita or per amount, it's like stronger than steel, but it's so fine and so thin so that you can walk right through a spider web. But this essence, this consciousness, this mind, as if it was folded up from one piece of paper, or as if there could be a seam somewhere and have all these facets or sides unfold, that is how I saw it extending out from my vantage point. So if that shape, with all of its multifaceted sides, represents my ability to see things happening around me and integrate those things, be it a trigger, something that activates me, like, you know, maybe negatively, like something that's dissonant with my ego and my mind and challenges me and asks me to be more calm and compassionate or understanding, or if it's something that affirms the good in my mind and helps me kind of carry on and see things as being aligned. Everything happening around me, in either direction, is bouncing off of that shape. This is, I think what I'm trying to explain is how we can understand the idea of like everything around you is a projection of your own mind, okay? So if that shape represents my mind, then to unfold it and have it be a plane, and you can still see individual squares, right? They're all reflective, and it becomes this like a game board, like a projection that comes out from my heart space or my energetic field, my chakra system, me and my energy, and how I'm resonating with the things around me is projected out from me as this multi-squared, multi-sectioned game board. And the reflective components of that could be deemed, you know, this person walking past me, that thing happening over there, somebody calling out over there. Those are the pieces of that game board. Because for some reason, the things that are perceived as chance encounters are just happenings around us. They are answers to our call. They are the manifested response to the call that we are putting out. And you're always calling out. Every thought, you know, every moment that you hold a vibratory truth, which is something you can't escape from doing. That's literally just how dialed in are you to the truth of your emotional scale. You know, a lot of people hold a lot of resentment and toxic emotions, and that's part of their vibration, their energetic truth in any given moment. So that is the call. And then the answers to the call, the repeated answers that they are delivered, correlate to that. They're on the same level. They are brought in response to that location or the truth of that dodecahedron prism. This is why it's nice, it's freeing to see things that way, in my opinion, because then you could say, well, I'm constantly having bad luck or bad things are happening. I'm going through a challenging thing. You don't need to fix every side of the dodecahedron. It could just be an adjustment in one square. You know, is there one thing? Kind of brings it back to like the unicorn sparkles version of like manifestation and gratitude lists, because if you can adjust one tremor, one tiny bit of that core shape that is your connection to each moment, just a little bit of a silver lining or optimism for something, then the experiences that you see mirrored around you, the rippling quilt, will dial in to reflect that. So they will be representative of a shift that comes from maybe one adjustment. And just bringing it back to stagnation being the bane of existence and how to counteract that. I think that being in connection, authentically with other people. So not just being around other people as a requirement, or, if you work with people, but not really engaging with them, or not being your true self around them, not letting them see who you are, just being vulnerable with people. If you don't present your dodecahedron to the world, to situations, to other people, then you cannot feel and see the correlation between your mind, your feelings, your intentions, and the things that happen around you. I'm not one for victim blaming, and I think it's problematic when people say that, if something bad happens, it's like, well, you manifested that. No, it's not quite like that, but there is a correlation, and it's not, for shame or to make it seem like harder. It's to understand that you are, like, if you're alive and you're here in this energetic space, then you are locked into something that it only benefits us to connect to and understand. And so I've taken my body and my mind and myself here to this beautiful foreign country, and my dodecahedron, basically, I see it as infinitely oscillating universe theory, right? It collapses and expands. It's almost like infinitely fast in every single moment. It is me, and it's reflecting me and all of my thoughts and my vibratory signature and how I'm dialed into the present moment. And then it unfurls and it becomes the game board, and it's reflecting everything around me. And then I respond to that, right? Triggers or glimmers, how I feel, how I'm able to watch myself respond to what happens around me. It reconstitutes itself, and then there's different facets and different sides. And then it splays out again. And that's kind of this ongoing day to day, second to second. That's how things continue to manifest. I could see something happening around me and be very, very upset by it, and then my prism would reconstitute itself, and there would be one side that is reflecting like an irritation or a triggered or a heightened emotional state, and then when it unfurls again, that's part of something that now I'm engaging with. And I will always feel very, very deeply connected to travel because I think anybody is, and I know it's like a big privilege, a big blessing to be able to travel. It's amazing to be able to travel. Like I had such a long journey to get here. It took me a whole 24 hours and, a couple calloused hands from having too much luggage that I had to transport all by myself through various, the airport, train stations, a lot of moving on foot, trying to get from place to place. And I finally settled here, and I'm starting to accept it because it's shocking. No matter where I go, if I go out of the country, and no matter, how many times I've gone out of the country, there's just a culture shock. It's different air quality. It's different, I don't see a single, that's not true. I see one cell phone tower. And that's remarkable because if I were back home in the States, right, one, I wouldn't be able to have this view, not where I live at least. And by that I mean as far as the eye can see. Like I'd only be able to see a third of however many miles I can see right now. And then within that, even though I wouldn't be able to see as far, I'd be able to see many more cell phone towers. So the frequency transmissions that are put out, I'm not experiencing that. I'm just adjusting to the energy of this environment. And with the shape of the self, my prism that I brought here, I rolled it out, or, I'm using that as the way to say, like, I arrived here, because if that's happening all the time, if it's oscillating, if it's unfurling and then rebuilding itself, the first interaction of my energy, the unfurling of that self, of me being here and then coming back together, it's like land of milk and honey vibes, right? It's paradise here. And so I'm able to just immediately calibrate up to this very, very keyed in, sacred, high vibrational, energetic, untampered with state that I've been like crying out for a long time. And it's not that I can't have that in my normal life. I think, the Buddha or monks, they would say, or Thich Nhat Hanh, he writes books, he's a monk, or was a monk, or Pema Chodron, they say, the key is becoming comfortable when you're uncomfortable. If you can become comfortable when you're uncomfortable, then you have mastery, because it is not the environment that will dictate how you are and how you feel. You choose how you feel and how you are from within, and you are able to respond to things, no matter what they are, that happen around you from a wise inner knowing. And of course, it's so much easier to be wise and grounded and compassionate, making logical decisions that you will not regret later, that are aligned with, actions, words, things that are aligned with knowing that what those will do is for your highest best. It will yield good results for you. And it will, if that's true and aligned, then by default, it will yield good results, or at least not bad results, for any and all people and energies around you. That's what aligned means. It's not selfish. It means you're doing your part as a piece in a puzzle, right? The gears, the cogs, the spinning. You're not glitching. You're not creating a blockage. When you create blockages within yourself, you do create blockages within the network that we inhabit with each other, because we are connected on an energetic level. That reminds me of a saying from, I don't know who, but it's parenting. They say a parent will only be ever as happy as their least happy child. It's because of the energetic connection between parents and caretaking, and our youth, our offspring, like from a primal level. I'm seeing ducks. Mama ducks are incredibly loyal and protective. Like, I saw a video the other day of a lost duckling who just joined a mother's little flock of baby ducks, and she immediately kind of ushered it into the front and let it be a part of the baby ducklings, because their maternal instincts are so incredibly strong. So, but the same could go, right? Also, weakest link theory on a team of people who are working together to a common goal. A team is only as strong as the weakest link. So we owe it to the people around us to be dedicated to our own growth. Because when you elevate yourself, you elevate the people around you. So it's like a free pass doing things like this. Like, this trip for me is one of the biggest investments in myself and my creative life. Because even though I know that it's important to be able to live in the life that I was given and have created, I could have chosen to move out of the place where I live and do something different. But I like the life I'm creating. It still comes with, real world problems and pressures and things. And those are all part of my growth, me being able to kind of figure out how to navigate the day-to-day problems that I encounter with more grace. And truly, if there are things that don't work in your life that are not aligned, to make the choices to not engage with those anymore, or, move, or get a new job, or end a relationship, or start a relationship. It's escapism in some ways, but escapism, you can do an energetic reset. So right now, I don't have to respond to the day-to-day triggers of my life and the things that I typically interact with, because none of that is here. I am in a beautiful paradise, and every moment that I look around, that's all I see. I have the choice to just think about that. And there's what I know from experience, there's a momentum that can be cultivated when you give yourself the chance to do something like this and completely unplug, so that I can take home like a stronger muscle of that mindfulness around my own collapsing and rebuilding of my dodecahedron. So here it's very easy to calibrate it at a high vibrational level where I'm aligned and appreciative, constantly in a state of gratitude, constantly in a state of admiring the beautiful flowers and the planters, the sky, the temperature, the breeze, my espresso, the peace of mind, the ability to do whatever I want, to create, to paint. It's so easy to be at peace. And practicing that is one of the best things we can do for ourselves, because you don't want to have to work really hard to tolerate people and things in your life. Like water off of a duck's back, it would be nice if in our lives it was easy and second nature to see the best in others and respond from, the wise archetype. I see as a woman, like, if I was 100 years old and I had lived my life, and also just doing Akashic integration and recalling past lives and the energies of other experiences that I have access to from my soul's history. If I were leaning on all of that, if I were, 100 and I lived all the years that I'm ever gonna live, how would I treat people, even if it's like, say it's a personal petty conflict with another young woman, or there's like a strange energy of some kind between us, like, her seeing me as the same age, but trying to act from a nurturing, maternal, nurturingly stern as needed, like maternal, loving, grounded, honest, compassionate position. I don't want to have to work to have to respond from that place within my heart and my mind. And because I don't want to have to work hard to do that, I work hard to practice being in that energy when things aren't trying or challenging or hard. Because it's a gift to myself, really, if I'm able to root myself in that energy so that I may be able to respond to somebody else from that place, which would, like, ideally, the point is it is for their benefit. I never want to project anything onto anybody else, like blame them for something or respond negatively because I don't, whatever it may be. If I can do that for others, it means that I'm able to do that to myself and speak to myself in nurturing, loving, compassionate ways. So to sum it up, it's important to move the body and stretch. It's important to stretch the mind and keep pursuing learning and trying to figure things out, and just appreciating the deep capacity of our brains to be able to learn lots of stuff. I used to think about how funny it was that there was just a vast, this is still true, vast quantity of lyrics that are just stored in my brain. Like, if you play any song from the early 2000s, I'll probably know all the words to it. And that's not fair to say, because I only really listened to like pop and R&B and rap and a little bit, there's certain genres that I didn't really listen to. It's not going to be the case for all country songs, for example, which I do like country, but my point is, sometimes I think that the world in the way that it is today is like we're just bombarded by all this information and our brains hold it, I know about the fact that Kourtney Kardashian's having another baby. That information was made available to me. I didn't have to work very hard to figure that out. It's the type of thing, there are stories, like social collective, I mean, not everybody's keyed into celebrity culture and politics and news, but these media outlets, they make certain collective stories everybody's business, or basically the way they keep certain stories or storylines alive in the public eye is so that it will become everybody's business. And when we choose not to follow those things and we choose to pursue other things, like I'm interested in reviving my Italian a little bit while I'm here. And eventually I'm interested in being trilingual and speaking French and Italian fluently so that I can come to France and Italy, where a deep part of my soul resonates. I love these countries. I love this part of the world. I don't like London, I will say that. I don't resonate with London. I don't really like the energy there. It doesn't feed my spirit. And that doesn't mean that it wouldn't feed other people's spirits, but the beauty and the gift of being able to travel in different places is like, I come to realize that there are connections that feel different than others. And some may say, well, who's not going to feel amazing and connected in Italy? Good point. I don't know who wouldn't, but some people might not. Some people might crave a very different kind of travel experience. I mean, of course, there's reasons, like it's very popular for Americans to come to Europe instead of, like I would say, for international travel, a lot of Americans would choose Europe over Asia, perhaps. But Asia is another one for me that I feel deeply connected to. So I think I am going to be posting some videos of just talking and getting thoughts out, because I'm going to try to be pretty solitary. I'm doing a residency where there are 6 other artists and 1 writer staying at this villa with me. I'm the youngest one. Everybody's in there. I think there's 1 woman in her 30s, 1 woman in her 40s, and then everyone else is in their 50s and 60s. And I love that. I am turning 29 in 2 days. But it's very easy to kind of just take my time and do what it is that I'm moved to do. And what I believe that will be is kind of packing up and finding a nice place to set up for the day and painting landscapes and painting outside and seeing what information comes to me. Because I'm seeking a lot of things while I'm here, I am looking to be present and reconnect with myself, but I'm also looking to just channel in some information that I can only open myself up to when I have my peace of mind and my quiet. And I want to return home and be more motivated to kind of caretake my own schedule. You know, I don't need an Italian villa to be able to meditate or take time out. But it's been a long time since I think I was truly in, you know, that connected way of life. I mean, I do okay on a day-to-day basis, but I've been needing and wanting to make certain adjustments that can support the leveling up that my spirit's trying to have me do right now, which is taking on a lot more of my own mission, making space in my life, you know, my schedule, my day-to-day for that mission. And I've been struggling with that because the desire is there and the push is there from my higher self, but the version of me that drives the car, like the decision maker, my conscious mind, there's got to be more of a synergy between what actions am I doing to feed that higher goal and an assessment on an ongoing basis of whether or not the things that I'm doing are feeding my soul's mission as I'm receiving it. So I'm going to open up space in my mind to tap into that more, and I'm going to share it. I know that everyone has different missions, but I believe there's going to be some collectively beneficial reflections in it. Maybe not. Maybe this is just a personal, you know, video log for me at this time, but I'll be sharing about it. Going to the art store today in town, which is exciting because I bring a lot of stuff when I paint overseas, but you can't bring certain things, nor would I want to, in case anything, went wrong in the suitcase and things exploded. You could quickly ruin everything you have that way. And then tomorrow, I believe I'll be painting outside. But I also haven't gone to much trouble to plan my days. I'd like to be moved authentically and organically to do what makes me happy. And I noticed within myself, I was like, well, hopefully that doesn't, I think I'm very prone when it comes to my creative work to self-sabotaging and making excuses and not wanting to dive into the mission or the actual painting of the picture, because there's an anxiety around it, because it's a different way of being, and I have to feel safe enough to release myself and let my aura expand. And as I mentioned, like at home, that can often lead to more anxiety and irritation if I'm not protecting my energy, because I'm opening myself up to my environment, my environmental energy, and the people around me. So there's like a strange thing that happens where I have to talk myself up and like self-soothe and let myself know that it's okay to sink into this space of expansion and letting myself be able to connect with, it's like a deep focus. I'm actually seeing it as a rock slab that has this really cool temperature to it because it's so deeply saturated, like a slate, like at the bottom of a ravine. It's like coming all the way down into that baseline, like a quietude, a connectedness. And again, the conscious mind. It's what is under the surface. It's that subconscious state, which also speaks to how different artists or people feel and describe going into a, flow state. It's like a trance-like state of creative connection where you don't have to give a whole lot of conscious thought to executing. And that's another thing I get nervous about, like, do I actually know how to paint? How do I do it? Like, I'll sit down and be like, so where do I start? Which is funny because I've been painting for my whole life, like, I guess, more seriously for 15 years or more, professionally when I wasn't like a child, but I've been making my whole life. And when I was a kid, kids are very open to flow state and energies. And there was almost this, like, I would like angrily scribble, there's a face that I make today if I'm concentrating. It's like a tight-lipped, stern face it's just an expression that I get if I'm concentrating. And there are photos of me as a child and I make the same face. And it's like a serious look, like a furrowed brow, tight lip thing. I don't really like it. It's just what it is. But it's interesting to me that that's been a constant. So even when I was free and uninhibited, as children are, before life takes them, they're very innocent, I still had this serious, like, motor, I guess, behind the action of creating. I'm also interested in seeing how well I can communicate in the form of taking videos, like more complex ideas and downloads that I've been getting, because at home I just get really, really scatterbrained and it's hard for me to focus and communicate ideas to completion. I talk about loops and open loops and I'll like put a pin in that. I'll come back, I'll bring that back around later. And it's a chaotic way of trying to relay information. I'd much prefer to be able to just get my ideas out and complete them. But sometimes they're, what's it called? Concentric circles? Yeah. Sometimes there's ideas that function like Russian dolls or concentric circles where you do kind of have to jump, from one raft to another in this island and that island and touch on different things with your telling of an idea in order to tell about the whole idea at once. And because of that, I don't think that this is content or easy listening. I think it's very convoluted. I know I speak in circles. But, I think other people's minds do too. I think we live in a day and an age where a lot of people live and try to function with ADHD, whether or not you know it. I think I've been in denial for a long time because of my history with mental health, mental illness, and medication. And I just don't want to be disempowered through a label or a diagnosis or a medication. And I know that a lot of people are empowered by having the correct treatment for something that holds them back. I don't feel any one way about that now, but I know that my reservation comes from that history. So maybe my point is, if there are other people who have this rapid, skippity, hoppity way of thinking, then they'll be able to listen to the way that I explain things and kind of appreciate it, because that's how their brains work too. Or it could be a frequency thing, because I also think about how there are certain people on YouTube or voices or storylines that different people share in different ways, be it podcasts or tarot readers or astrologers. And I just, it's natural to go through phases, to find people who you're like, everything you say is so on point for what I feel like I'm going through in my life. And then one day that's just not true anymore. And like, maybe I don't notice it right away, and I'll listen to a few episodes or videos, but I won't really be paying attention. Like, the resonance is starting to wane or fade. And then eventually I just will stop clicking on them. And this can all happen subconsciously, right? The ebbs and flows of things that ignite us or resonate with us. Maybe I'll try to do some sort of like light language transmission or like singing or vocal thing as well, because there are rarely places in my life that I feel comfortable enough to sing at full volume, which is a sadness, honestly. I don't know why I don't feel safe or comfortable belting in a lot of places. And there's a piano here, which is an absolute blessing, and I didn't expect it. And I was singing at the top of my lungs last night, playing the piano, realizing like I almost wanted to cry, because I was like, I don't do this. I think one of the only places I feel comfortable singing at full volume is my shower, because it's like a tiny ceramic walled-in box, and I'm like, I am invisible. I exist nowhere. This is a place outside of time. Which isn't true, and I could essentially convince myself to be in that state in other locations, or ideally in front of other people, because then I wouldn't go into anaphylactic shock if I think someone's listening to me. It's just stage fright, really. But one could connect it to the paralysis that myself or somebody with writer's block or creators have, right? When you can't get past that initial, like, how do I do this? You have to sink onto the cool slab of what's the truth of your heart, of the moment. Clear away the chatter, the emotions, the water that rushes past that truth. If you sit long enough and you connect long enough, you see the things that pass you by, the transient states of the emotion or the distraction. All of that, like water, won't ever be in the same place. Yes, it's a constant flow. Perhaps it will always be there, but this doesn't change. The foundation will also always be there. So it's your choice as to where you're going to locate yourself and how you're going to connect. So right now I'm making that transition where I'm going to that deepest point, and that's where I'm going to connect from. And hopefully that will yield exciting results, right? Because the other thing is, like, I get to a place like this and I'm like, oh my God, I have to make the most of my time here. I have to paint a lot of pictures. I have to just perform, basically, well. And that's one of the ways in which I would try to inhabit like a divine feminine. I described before, like that 100-year-old, that wise woman, that maternal, that loving energy of, if she were here, right? We could call it my higher self. If I was conversing with her, how would she treat that? How would she talk to me? She would say, you're already doing it. Just be there. Just live in the moment. You're only going to hold yourself back if you speak to yourself with shoulds and have tos. That's not going to benefit you. It's just going to add a layer of anxiety that you almost create for yourself because you're so used to having it. It's like a comfort blanket. It's like a kid with a blankie, right? It's like, I'm not used to going, I sleep with this at night. I'm not used to going without it. It's about leaving comfort zones. I can sometimes bring my comfort blankie of anxiety with me, even when it doesn't benefit my performance, because I'm used to carrying it around. So my wise self would say, time's gonna pass anyway, and you can choose to put that down. You can choose to let every day and every moment be as it's meant to be, and trust that what you make, how you spend your time when you're here, is exactly how you're meant to spend it, as long as you truly do put that blanket down. If you're constantly worrying, like, did I make the most of this day? Did I enjoy myself enough? Did I paint enough? That's gonna be the only thing. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that makes me not enjoy it, not make the most of my time. Because even if I were to not paint at all, I could be here and I could just write in my journal. I could just sit and stare at the butterflies. That would be perfect. That would be perfectly what it was meant to be if that's what I ended up doing. If I connected to that cool slate bottom of truth from where the proper aligned creative inspiration that I'm trying to connect with at this moment in time, where that will come from, if that sitting and staring is the result of that connection, then that's perfect and that's meant to be. And I would accept that with an open heart. So that's why I'm sitting here now, right? I was painting and I came out of the studio and I said, I want to reflect and be outside. All right, well, bye for now.